On the 8th of August, we launched our latest white paper, which is tackling the upcoming tender for the DCC licence. It's quite a challenging tender for Ofgem and DESNZ to run. In fact, I've got quite a lot of sympathy for the process because it's complex. The licence can only, as far as I understand it, be changed under primary legislation. Getting a slot in a new government to change the terms and conditions of a licence is really hard. So the challenge is, how do we tender a licence that brings about a really well-functioning smart metering network that delivers the service standards that everyone needs for the next decade plus if you can't change the terms of the licence? And to make it doubly hard, what the industry really wants to achieve is for the licence to reside with a not-for-profit company. So when you put those two things together, the licence itself doesn't really describe the service we want for the next decade. It's got to be, under its terms and conditions, it's got to be commercially tendered, which is opened up to the market and a whole raft of different companies to come forward and bid for, but you can't make any money from it. So the challenge for Ofgem and DESNZ is how to get the right companies to show up with all the skills and experience that we need to deliver to a service standard that we haven't really yet specified, and to do so on the basis that they can't make any money from it. So this is a bit of a quagmire, but I think it is solvable. So in our white paper, we explored a range of different options. Many of them have been discussed across the sector to date and have had quite a lot of airtime. I don't think any of them quite solve the problem. So what I and Corella have tried to come up with is a kind of new option, a completely new way of looking at this, which we in the paper have called Option 4. So what I want to do with this video is break it down, because I've had a whole bunch of conversations since we launched the white paper, lots of interest, which has been fabulous, asking me questions about how Option 4 would really work in practice. So Option 4 consists of 4 steps. Step 1 is the most crucial part of the whole way Option 4, which we call tendering a restructure, hangs together. So in step 1, we bring together, Ofgem brings together, interested parties. I describe them as interested parties in the paper. What I really mean by that is users of the smart metering service that DCC provides. So those users are energy suppliers, increasingly distribution network operators, and what we classify as other users. So these are companies that take data off the smart meter directly and often offer that data directly up to consumers or other innovative business models. We need to get those interested parties in a room. Ideally, and this I think could be really, really important to whether or not step 1 achieves the objective that I'll lay out in a second. What's really important is hopefully Ofgem could declare in advance which central body they want the licence to eventually reside with. And I'll explain what that means in a second. But if they can declare that up front, then that central body can also be in the room in step 1. That could be really important because they're going to be the person, they're going to be the organisation that is going to work with the output that this group produces. So let me break this down. So we're going to put all the interested parties in a room with Ofgem, with a really good lawyer. Everybody's signed an NDA. Everybody's super empowered to get this step 1 done. And what they're doing is defining, what do we want the service to look like? What do we want the smart metering network today and in the future to look like? What service levels do we want any provider to hit? What key performance indicators do we want them to report against so that we can track transparently how they're performing? It's a chance for the industry to once and for all really define what good looks like. Now, it won't be perfect, nothing ever is, and time is of the essence. So I think we need to give ourselves about 6 months to put really empowered, senior, knowledgeable reps in a room, and to get through it in 6 months, someone's ultimately going to have to be accountable for, having heard all the views, make the decision about what's going to go into the output that this group's going to produce. That deciding voice could be Ofgem. It could be the central body that's going to end up with the licence. So what's the output of step one? The output of step one is an outsourced services agreement. A classic outsourced service agreement. Nothing unusual about it. It defines the service. It's got service levels that you've got to hit under contract. It's got KPIs that you've got to report against. We have thousands of such contracts tendered every day across the energy sector. It's really common. Everybody understands it. If we can put such a contract out to market, I promise you, commercial companies in droves will turn up to bid for that contract. It's likely the service levels and the service description that gets put into that contract is potentially quite different than what's in the licence. That's okay. They need to be complementary and linked, but it's okay if it's much more detailed and much more decisive. So the output of step one is a brand new outsourced services agreement that tells the future provider of the service what they need to do and what the standard of performance is that they need to hit. So, industry's worked on it together. It's a collaborative effort. It's clear. It's a new contract. That's the output of step one. We've not done anything with that contract yet. That's just on the shelf. Step two, then, is another contract. This is the transitional services agreement. What this does is obligate the winning bidder of what I'll come to describe as a package of contracts, but it obligates that winning bidder to execute a series of steps that will probably take them between 6 to 12 months to do. Those series of steps are classic kind of corporate restructuring steps. Again, these types of transitional services agreements are being executed all the time, all over the sector and in other sectors. It's quite common. Most companies will know how to do it. And so what the transitional service agreement will obligate the winner to do is to take the DCC legal entity as it is today, consisting of a whole raft of people and skills, and consisting of other non-people related things like buildings and HR software, finance software, all sorts of tools that people use to do their job. What the transitional service agreement says is in a series of steps, put the people that are related to policy, governance, procurement, contract management, strategy, put all of the people that are related to governance inside the central body that Ofgem has chosen. So basically that's a legal activity. It's the tooping of people out of DCC and into this central body. That therefore sets up the central body of Ofgem's direction. It sets them up with success with the people that they need. There's also some tools that will need to be put in that central body. It could be that HR and finance systems and things like that need to move into the central body too. Could be that those are not necessary. But the transitional service agreement will lay out the bits that need to be moved into the new central body. It will then also lay out all the people that are technical, service delivery people, operational people, everyone in DCC that's related to operating the service, and crucially, all the third-party contracts that the DCC signed that's related to operating the service, like contracts with mobile operators or service and software providers. Those contracts will novate into the winning bidder's business. So the headcount will move into the winning bidder's business and the third-party agreements will novate in. So the transitional service agreement goes, toopy these people here and here, novate these contracts here and here, move these tools here and here. It puts everything in the right place. Again, it's just a contract at this stage. It's not been executed, that's written, and that's then on the shelf. So step one, we create the outsourced services agreement. Step two, we create the transitional services agreement, and they're both ready to go. We've not done anything yet. We're now going to bundle those two contracts with the original license agreement. The license is the bit, remember, that we can't change without primary legislation going through Parliament. That takes time. We now don't need to change that license because we've captured everything we want to do with the service in the outsourced services agreement, and we've made sure that all the parties that are related to delivering and governing the service, we've got a transitional services agreement that puts everything in the right place. Now we've got a tender to run, Ofgem's got a tender to run, and they're going to tender a bundle of contracts, no longer just a licence. They're going to tender a licence, an outsourced services agreement, and a transitional services agreement. Commercial companies galore, and I promise you lots of companies will turn up to bid for this. And this is the challenge that I think most worries Ofgem. If they run a process that there won't be enough interest. I'm not sure there would be enough interest if they just tender the licence. When they tender this bundle, I think there'll be a lot of excitement. So you're going to get really good companies showing up with their best people. They're going to compete toe for toe, put in best price, best people, best quality they can possibly muster to win this bundle. And why would they want it? Because ultimately, what the good and capable commercial companies want to win is they want to win that outsourced services agreement, the really clearly defined thing that the industry worked on together to create that sets the service standard. They want to deliver that. In order to get it, they will sign up to deliver the transitional service agreements that puts things in the right place. And the final step of that transitional services agreement is to novate the licence into the central body. So, just to make sure, because this bit's complicated, they tender three things: transitional service agreement, outsourced service agreement, and the licence itself. Commercial companies bid, you win all three contracts. The only contract you end up keeping as the commercial company is the outsourced service agreement. You execute the transitional service agreement in 6 to 12 months, and that ends up with people in the right place, and you move the licence into the central body. What we then are left with, after all of these steps have been executed, is a central body that Ofgem and DESNZ chose as being the right central body to govern the smart meter network going forward. That central body has the licence inside the central body. It's been moved into that central body. They have the people and the tools they need to do a really good job of governing the system. And then they have a contract to deliver the day-to-day operational service delivery with a skilled, competent commercial company that competed tooth and nail for that contract. So you know you've got best price, best people, best quality against a set of service delivery metrics that have been completely redesigned from scratch by the industry. That model has got so many benefits because we know it's going to be value for money because everyone competed like mad for it. It's going to be the best that the private sector can possibly offer at the lowest possible cost. The licence is in a not-for-profit central body. All the people that relate to governance and contract management and policy and strategy are inside that central body. They're really set up to govern effectively. The people that do day-to-day operational delivery that really know how the smart meter network works today, they have been moved into the new winning bidder. So we've retained the knowledge, we've got the best possible price of service delivery, we've got the best possible governance model, and it's a governance model that we know works because it's present all around the rest of the sector. In my mind, option 4 is this win-win-win. Everybody wins, the market gets a better model, service delivery standards are higher, it's at best price. There's got to be the right answer for the consumer, and it's got to increase the pace of improvement because we've brought together the best possible skills that the industry can get its hands on at the best possible price.